The funeral for Queen Elizabeth II is one of the biggest ceremonial events to take place in Britain since World War II. This is a woman who sat on the throne for an astonishing 70 years. And so the hundreds of thousands on the streets of London and the many millions watching on television really tells you about the imposing and dominant figure she was in British society and across the Commonwealth. Over the past 10 days since her death, many have sought to describe who Elizabeth was, and they have dissected her personal life and her unprecedented 7 decades on the throne. Today, it was time for the final tributes. The era that belonged to her has come to an end. There was never going to be any doubt about the sheer scale and grandeur of her funeral. Some of it she planned herself before her death. For the funeral service at Westminster Abbey, 2,000 specially invited guests, including leaders from across the world. Westminster Abbey is the traditional church for royals in life and death. Elizabeth was married and coronated here, and it's where it all ends for her and her era. Her coronation here at the Abbey in 1953 was the first coronation to be televised, and her funeral here is the first funeral of a monarch to be televised. Among the invitees seen here is the outstanding Guyanese Baroness Valerie Amos, who the Queen appointed at the start of this year a Lady Companion of the Order of the Garter, the most senior order of knighthood in the British honour system. At the church service, they extolled the virtues and the work of the woman, the Queen, Elizabeth II.
Her late Majesty famously declared on a 21st birthday broadcast that her whole life would be dedicated to serving the nation and Commonwealth. Rarely has such a promise been so well kept. Few leaders receive the outpouring of love that we have seen.
Through the many decades, the Queen was the constant during times of great change, whether it was financial crisis in Britain or the problems in her own household.
She was the first, I believe, global leader in the world, and I'm particularly proud personally that it was a woman who was a global leader. You know, we talk about her being the head of the United Kingdom and the Commonwealth, but her reign started with the end of World War II, and now this era has finished, where we're now starting a new era. And I think it was important for us to mark that as a country.
Gail Teixeira, the Minister of Governance and Parliamentary Affairs, represented Guyana at the funeral.
Well, you know, when you look back at it, she was so young when she became the Queen, and I don't think there was any training she went through, just a little bit, and had to deal with, one, the end of colonialism. The British Empire collapsed and was, and I think that's an important point to match, that as the Queen, she did not resist the independence of nations, and allowed, and the Commonwealth became a new entity, a new force in the world in terms of representing newly independent countries that had formerly been under British rule. And I think that openness and understanding that the world was changing, that she was not going to be a force to hold back all the changes that were taking place, the liberation of countries from British rule, from French and Spanish and Dutch rule in that era. So I think that, and one of the interesting things about her was that the whole coronation was televised, which was absolutely quite revolutionary in those days. So I think that she was a woman that was open to change, although she must have been surrounded by a lot of conservatism, a lot, particularly male conservatism. And so I think that for me as a woman being here, I'm very proud to be here, and I'm very proud to be a Guyanese woman here. because of course we've had a history of women in leadership and women who played important parts in our history. So I thought it was, and I'm very appreciative of President Ali for asking me to represent Guyana, to represent his government, and also to be able to have our presence here noted, that we felt this was an important occasion for us to be here.
After the service, the Queen's body drove past Buckingham Palace one last time, and there was more pageantry as it moved along to Windsor Castle for burial. With the funeral of Queen Elizabeth II now over, attention is shifted to her son, the new monarch, King Charles III. How will his rulership be defined? Reporting for the newsroom, I'm Neil Marks in London.